Is it just me, or do these get worse every day?
I've got a brand new shiny helmet and a pair of kinky boots. I've got a lovely new flak jacket and a lovely khaki suit. And when we go on night patrol, we'll hold each other's hand. We are the British Army and we're here to take your land.
Hello all, we're going to start off with an elk nose hand wave. Boop! There it is. So today we're going to go over the melee weapons. This is some pretty dense subject material. There's more melee weapons in Northwind than there are bows and guns combined, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't tried all of them. I haven't even tried half of them. And at the end of all this, I don't expect you guys to either. This video is just to give you a basic idea of what weapons are out there and what those weapons are good at. I'm going to put the remainder of this to a bunch of fights I had. In these clips, I dueled 2 above average sword users. Now, because I don't typically duel sword users, in fact, it's the first 2 I've fought in months, you will see me lose a lot. What can I say? I'm bad at fighting weapons that are as fast as mine. So let's get to it. When it comes to melees and their damage, I rank them all on this sort of continuum I've got. On one end, we have the weapons that deal crazy high damage but are slow and take a lot of stamina. And on the other end, we have the weapons that deal low damage but use small amounts of stamina and strike very fast. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the screen so you all can follow along with me. But as a general rule of thumb, before we begin, natives are better with melees because they have 50% more stamina than colonists and HBC. And for future reference, every time I say stamina bar, I'm referring to the colonist one, not the natives. Starting on the left, our highest damaging and slowest weapons are the axes, chief among them being the great axes. The great axe deals somewhere between 80 and 85 damage and uses a little less than half your stamina bar per swing. These are not all that common on the battlefield because they use so much stamina. One peg down from the great axes are the colonist boarding axes and the native tribal war axes. These are both reskins of each other. They both deal 75 damage and use 1/3 of your stamina bar per swing. If you're a native, they use 1/4 of your stamina bar per swing. A lot of people use boarding axes and tribal axes. They're very easy to get the hang of, they deal high damage, and they can block. This makes them, very good starter weapons. I suggest you try these on your search for the perfect weapon to master, folks, because you'll be fighting a lot of them on the battlefield, and it's good to figure out what you're fighting against, even if you don't plan on getting good at it. So next come the assorted spears. Spears and pikes, which are their unthrowable brothers, are almost never used. There's something like 8 spear variants? I don't know, I've lost track, but they all deal between 40 to 50 damage per swing and 75 damage when thrown. Now, nobody uses these because they deal shitty damage and use the same stamina as the axes do. Why would I trade an axe, which takes 2/3 of your health per hit, for a spear, which takes 1/3 of your health per hit, but uses the same stamina as the axe does? Some of these spears, they can be thrown, but they're very, very hard to aim. They're not like the tomahawk. These are not remotely reliable in combat, and for that reason, no one uses spears. They're pretty much the worst of both worlds here. High stamina usage and very low damage. I don't suggest ever using a spear. This is probably the biggest category of weapon I've just never tried. So after spears come swords. Swords are very much the middle ground weapon in this game. If you don't want to try anything insanely fast with low damage or insanely slow with high damage, swords are going to be for you. There are 2 mainstream sword variants, and the problem is they're craftable by colonists and buyable by colonists, so natives are shit out of luck when it comes to getting swords. You'll have to dry them off other people. So, the first sword variant is the cutlass, which deals around 40 damage and takes 1/4 of your stamina per hit. Now you've got the saber, which is the slightly better sword variant, which deals the same 40 damage, but uses a little less of your stamina per hit. It's more like 3.5. Now, these weapons don't hit super fast, but they do hit fast enough for combat, obviously. They're reliable, and they do what they're supposed to do. You can depend on swords. I suggest starting with them if you don't know what to start with, because they're fucking good learner weapons. As a side note, there's a special sword you can get from the treasure chests called like the Falchion or Falchion or something, and it deals around 45 damage per swing. It's slightly better than the saber. I've never had one, so I don't know any more than that, but it is good to take that into consideration if you want to be the one weirdo who uses like only treasure chest weapons. Next, we've got our tomahawks. There are two variants. We've got the colorless one and the native one, and both have identical stats. They are tied with knives as the fastest hitting melees in-game. Unlike knives, though, they can block incoming hits, which makes them viable in combat scenarios. Tomahawks deal 30 damage and use a little less than a fifth of your stamina bar per swing. They can also be thrown for 75 damage, which is actually quite good. I don't suggest using tomahawks unless you plan on getting good with them, though, because if you're not good with them, then you will be basically useless in combat. You deal tiny damage. I personally use tomahawks because they're phenomenal counter to boarding axes. But you don't have to be like me, use the weapon you prefer. And lastly, we've got our knives and our bayonets. These weapons are special because they use the least amount of stamina. They're also the only weapons we've discussed so far that cannot block or parry opponents' melee hits. If you have a knife or a bayonet out and you're being attacked by somebody else with a melee, your only chance of stopping their blow will be to swing in the direction they attack in. Even then, it's only a chance that you'll be able to block them. Regular knives are a 5-hit kill, and then hatchets and superior knives are both 4-hit kills. All knife variants, including the hatchet, use an eighth of your stamina per swing. For those of you who don't know, the hatchet is the native quote-unquote starter weapon that you get in your inventory every time you die. Obviously, you should never take a knife or a hatchet out to combat because, they're shitty melees. They deal very, very little damage. Bayonets, on the other hand, deal 50 damage while using that same eighth of your stamina. This is a big bonus to using a bayonet. They're better knives. They're much better knives. You deal out 2-hit kills while using your very little stamina. The only downside to bayonet usage is, you can't defend yourself like the knives. And so, like, great axe users, boarding axe users, tribal war axe users, they just tear bayonet users a new one. Bayonets also don't behave like any other melee in the game. They're very quirky, they're a bitch to learn, so I don't suggest starting your melee experience with a bayonet. They're fucking weird, alright? They're a very quirky weapon. Alright, well, that covers pretty much every melee type in Northwind. I know I left out a bunch of treasure chest exclusive knives and treasure chest exclusive tomahawks and whatnot, but they're honestly just too numerous to name around. I'm not gonna bother. Hope you all took something away from this. More content will be out soon. If you have any video suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I read all of them. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.
While in the merry month of May, not from me home I started, left the girls at Hume and nearly broken heart, saluted father dear, kissed me darling mother, drank a pint of beer, me grief and tears are smothered enough to reap the corn, leave for I was born, caught a stout black torn to banish ghosts and goblins, brand new pair of brogues to rat the love of the bogs, frighten all the dogs on the rocky road to Dublin, 1 to 3 for 5, hunt the hare and turn her down the rocky road and all the ways to Dublin, whack for Lally-Ra. In Mullingar the blight arrested limb so weary, started by daylight this morning bright and nearly took a drop of the pure, keep me heart from sinking, that's the paddy's cure. When Aries up for drinking to see the lassie smile, laughing all the while at me curious style, to set your heart a bubbling, asked me was I hired, wages I required till I was almost tired of the rocky road to Dublin, 1 to 3 for 5, hunt the hare and turn her down the rocky road and all the ways to Dublin, back for Lally-Ra.